live on right now. Dylan, can you also check that we're live on YouTube?
Yeah, I'll check.
So, just a refresher for everyone who wasn't here last week, and if you had issues last week, you need to jump on and search for Arduino IDE. Is that not focused up the top? There we go. And I'll just tweak that a little bit. There we go. Awesome. Alright, so you'll need to search Arduino IDE on Google. Okay? And the first thing that comes up is the software on which you program your Arduino boards. This is the primary requirement other than the Arduino Basic Kit for today. You will need this software, which if you scroll down, it will tell you all the links to install based on what operating system you have, which for most of you will be either Windows or Mac. Okay? Working? Awesome. So, having said that, okay, you will need the Arduino IDE for any workshop and any project you work on Arduino, because obviously you need to program it at some point. Okay, so while some of you are probably installing that, I will just make a start on, at the very least, I guess, starting to go into a little bit of theory. We're going to touch a little bit of theory today, not as much as last week, and then from then onwards, we will then get our hands dirty a lot more today, so we're more on time than last week. Cool. So, pulling up my slides, okay, here we go. So, welcome again to Create, okay? In case some of you don't know, my name is Daniel. Anyone with a Create shirt you should be aware of. So there are some people like Dylan in the massive red shirt there, big boy there. We have Raymond, William with the camera there. We have Peter, Amar, I think we have Jenny up back as well. We have Vincent Johan at the front. Okay, we have Farhan. We have a lot of volunteers out today. So if you see any one of us, please put up your hand and one of us will come around and help you. Okay? So please feel free to ask any questions at any point. If you want to ask me something live on stage, you can, but just check your hand up so that we know that you're asking a question. Cool. All right. So what we did last week we covered sort of a little bit of the basics, and I know it was a little bit chaotic and we were a little bit slow on time, but what we covered was the basics of Arduino. So what we did was we set up Arduino to our computer, we installed Arduino IDE, and that allowed us to interface, and then we ran through a lot of general basic stuff, including breadboards and how to prototype circuits, and how to write your first program. Right, so first off, we worked on what's called Blink, which is a very common robotic project for everybody, where all you need to do is turn an LED on and off. Okay? As well, we also programmed to add a button such that when you hit that button, it would turn on the LED. Okay? So those are the very first two things that we've ever done. And this week, because we have a lot more time now, we're going to be a bit less constrained. Hopefully, now everyone will be able to see, and hopefully everyone will be able to make something cool, okay? So remember that next week, we're going to be building a car, and next week will be a lot more chaotic. I'm trying to get a different room next week, okay? So for next week, we might be in Tyree. Just a heads up to check Facebook closer to the event, but there is a high chance it'll be in Tyree because there's a lot of tables, and there's a much bigger podium or lectern on which we can present and make sure that everyone is building, okay? So for now, don't worry too much. Sit back and relax as I run through some theory, and then we'll get on to that.
Okay, so anybody that's new, just plug the Arduino into your computer and download the Arduino IDE. And then once you've done that, open up the Arduino IDE. On the top left of the window, you should see an arrow that points to the right. That's the second button from the left. It should say upload. Hit that, see if it works. That's our indication to say that your computer has successfully talked to this Arduino. This blue little Arduino is a programmable board. So for everybody that's new out there, we're just like, it's a way that us as people can program through our computer to talk to electronics, whether it's lights, buttons, sensors, anything really. The Arduino is a great way to interface. And you might be using them in elec, Engine 1000, any sort of introductory subjects. It's a good entry to robotics and electronics. Please put your hand up if you're having any troubles connecting your Arduino to your computer and hitting run to see if it just at least talks.
Is this working?
No.
Oh, you didn't. Yeah. Did you sign next door? Yes, knock on the door. I should have just fixed it because I made it stand alone.
Oh, did I combine this? I might have combined it.
Okay, cool. Alright. So, I think we're having issues with the exporting.
We have to go at like 2 different paces. I'll try and scoop up people that are new.
Okay.
If you go on to the workshop. But we need to make that clear so if you can sort of talk them.
Yeah, I'm going to try and make this.
I'm gonna express them to the link.
Yep.
Tell them that.
Yeah. Okay. So just a reminder. Those that are brand new and have any questions, remember that as we go through this workshop, it will run pretty quickly because we have a lot of examples to do this time. Okay? If you have any issues, please put your hand up. Okay? If you have installation issues or if you don't know what to do when you're starting off, please put your hand up. We have a lot of volunteers, just remember. Okay, Dylan's the main man to help out. Okay? Is projector working or no?
Was.
Why did it pop out?
Try turning it off and on again.
Yes, try turning it off and on again. My reference code. Right here. Flippix. Alright. So, what are we doing this week? Okay. This week we're going to be covering some other complex techniques. Well, not really complex, they're still in the beginning level, unfortunately, because we only covered one thing last week. But this week we'll be covering some other interesting stuff that hopefully, after that, should enable you to do some projects. Okay? And these few components that we'll be covering covers a fundamental basis that will allow you to understand how a lot of components work. Okay? There's a fundamental basis on which we structure our code, and there are certain concepts you need to know from what you learn here that will help you understand a lot of what you need to know to build any sort of project as a starting point. Okay? So today is going to be a lot more hands-on just to repeat us. I'll chuck through one bit of theory. Okay? We're going to have one amount of theory now, so if you want to sleep, I don't recommend it, but here we go. Okay? So last week we talked about, very briefly, we talked about signals. Okay? So you might like winding just a little bit off the back. Yeah? Last week we covered analog signals, digital signals, where we dealt with digital write high and digital write low for high and low signals, i.e. 1 or 0, or in electrical terms, 5 volts and 0 volts. Okay? So, because last week we dealt with digital signals, we could turn on an LED, we could activate an LED via a button. Okay? And that is helping us understand that digital signals are just on or off, 1 or 0. Right? However, as you all hopefully know, a lot of inputs and outputs that we make are not digital. A lot of the inputs and outputs we make are in fact analog, where we're on some sort of variable scale that has an infinite amount of intervals, right, between that scale. In this case, we work with a 0 to 5 volt scale, okay, and usually we have about 1,024 steps. Okay, that's just knowledge that you could know. We'll get to a little bit more detail about that as we go along. But when we deal with analog signals, it's going to be on a variable scale, which means that now we can have 50% output. We can have 25% output. We don't have to have exactly 100% or 0%. Okay? However, there is one issue with that, which is our Arduino can still only output 0 or 100%. So we have analog signals that we can read because of the variable scale that the natural world gives us, but unfortunately, due to the limitations of electronics and computation, we can only really output digital signals, which is in ones and zeros. So ultimately, we still have this issue where we can't replicate analog signals. However, fortunately, we've developed something called pulse width modulation, and there's a lot of complex stuff we can talk about, but I'll keep it nice and simple. What it is basically you're pulsing on and off based on the amount of on that you wish. So for example, if I want to replicate a 70% on signal, then I will pulse my signal in on and off such that it's on for 70% and off for 30%. Okay? And we can change what's called the duty cycle to change the percentage of total output from this. So ultimately, we can mimic analog signals by ensuring that there is a different amount of percentage in terms of what is on and what is off. Okay? So, the way we end up, when you write the commands, as we're about to do, for writing analog signals, what the Arduino is actually doing is pulsing it with an on-off percentage based on your output, based on your desired output, and it mimics an analog signal. And we'll get to see that as we do examples starting from pretty much 10 seconds. Okay? So realize that most electrical signals that we compute and that we output are usually not on an analog scale, but we can mimic it with pulse width modulation, and it's one of those techniques. Okay? Alright, that's all the theory out of the way. Well, I'm sure all of you are getting bored of that. Let's get on to the practical, okay? The very first exercise we're going to do is going to be a refresher for everyone that came last week, and something new for everyone that didn't come last week, okay? But I'm going to add an extension to that. We're not going to just make the LED blink this time, we're going to make it fade, okay? We're going to make it slowly pulse on and slowly pulse off, because realize that now you guys are equipped with analog signals, okay? I'm just going to quickly close this door because it's a little bit windy. Alright, so when everyone is ready, everyone take out the Arduino boards and take out their cables and make sure that your Arduino is connected to your laptop or other computer device, okay?
Yes, it is. Oh, Thomas is even hard. The remote controls is the hardest part because you need to understand how to interact with the ARC module. Every Monday, grades in part of the global law, they buy the ARC module you need.
The bootable. Because that's what I bought today.
That can work as well, yes. I'm not going to recommend it. The ARC module also works.
Okay, so hopefully you should have your Arduino board pulled out, okay, like so. Right, and from there, we're going to plug your Arduino into your computer, and we're going to plug it like so, so you just have a blue cable to plug, and that's it, right? That's ready to go. Your Arduino should fire up at this point, okay? It should have a light that turns on in the on sort of label, okay? From there, I'll flip back to the slides, save, cool. So we'll have our video capture device. Okay, so now hopefully a lot of you remember how we did it last week. We're going to take out an LED resistor, some jumper cables, okay, and we're going to plug our circuit the exact same way except for one small change, right? What we're going to change is because now we're going to output an analog signal means that we need to have a pin that supports pulse width modulation, right? Because remember that the only way we can mimic an analog signal is with pulse width modulation, which means that we need to make sure that the pin supports it, because not all of them do, right? And last week I covered over the Arduino how we had digital and analog pins, right? Realize now you have to plug in your LED either to an analog pin or to any pin that supports pulse width modulation, which you can tell because on my Mega it's quite clear, it'll tell you PWM, I think. Okay, there are a few pins on here that say it, but on all of your Unos, you'll notice there is a little squiggly line, or like the tilde key on the keyboard. Any pin marked with that symbol outlines that it is compatible with pulse width modulation, which means that we can actually tweak it. Yes?
I want to write that down.
Vincent can pull out more Arduino.
47 pins, more on Australia and PWM support.
Does that mean outreach might have a little bit less, but some people will have a little bit more?
Can we stop with that? No. Analog, right. That's right.
Push it through until Vince 15. Just tell him, he knows.
The analog in is for reading.
Cool, so hopefully everyone has pulled out some stuff for now. We're just showing you some stuff to see if we can get other people kits. But yeah, so we have some LEDs, okay? Hopefully you have a breadboard as well, and we'll have one LED and one resistor, okay? Does everyone have that? Yeah? Cool. Let's turn over to, now make this as big as possible on our stream. And we'll stop the studio mode and we'll just okay? So, what I'm going to do now is slightly dim the lights. And hopefully that makes the stream more clear. Yeah? Alright, so we have our Arduino board here, and we have a breadboard here. Okay? And now we're going to re-plug in the LED. So hopefully you remember from the slides from last week. But what you'll need to do is hopefully have some preference, some color preference, red, yellow, or green. Okay, you won't be judged on which one you pick, but make sure you choose one. Okay, you have an LED. We're going to plug it in on two separate vertical rails on your breadboard. Okay, and those last week should know what I mean. And for those that don't, on your breadboard there are numbers indicated for each vertical row on your breadboard, noted also by a letter system on one of the two sides. Okay? Using the numbers, each row of numbers, so if you take a look at, say, row 5, for example, all the 5 pins on row 5 are connected electrically, which means that if I plug any component on row 5, they will be connected together in a circuit. Okay? As for the red and blue lines up the top and bottom, okay, those lines are all connected together as one single long line, right? So you have a long blue and long red on each side, okay? And those are primarily used for power. Okay, that's a good summary. And you'll see this in example both on our diagrams here, okay? You'll see a very good example of how you can plug those in. But what I'm going to do, if you guys don't have reference to that, okay, is we're going to do it right here, okay? So, hopefully that's enough focus there. What we're going to do is we're going to take our LED, you're going to know the long and short pins, okay? Long is positive, short is negative, okay? And we'll plug it on two separate rails of your LED, of your breadboard, sorry. Okay? On two separate rails like this, you'll see that on my camera, there is a long bent leg and a short leg that's nice and short, that just goes straight in, okay? By bending the feet of the LED, lets you put it in nice and flat. Okay, and that's quite important for establishing good contact. Okay, let's reference our diagram here. Okay, you'll notice that the short leg is then connected to a resistor, which is then connected to what's called ground. Okay, which is these two pins over here. Okay, and you'll notice that the other end is connected to 13, which we're going to change to 11 because 11 is a PWM supported pin. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? Cool. So, let's quickly do that now. You'll hopefully have your resistor on you now, okay? You can pick any of the 3 resistors in your pack, any of them work. We're going to plug in the short end to the same row as the short end of the LED, the cathode, or the negative end. And we're going to plug the other end of the resistor to some other random row. Doesn't matter where, because we're going to connect it to ground. Okay? That's really blurry, I know. Right, focus. Good. Okay? So you have a resistor that goes on the same row as the short end to another row. Okay, to another empty row. From there, we can now hook one end of the resistor to ground. So ground is denoted by GND on your Arduino board. Okay? And the other ends, which I'm going to grab a different cable here.
Is there a way to turn the lights on?
These? Turn these lights on? Or off? Press the first G on. You don't want it fully off because otherwise it's going to
I will make that work.
And remember that the last one, we're going to plug into one of the digital pins of the Arduino. So you plug the last cable from the long end of your LED on the same row, okay, to one of the PWM supported pins on your Arduino, okay? Now remember that I'm working off a Arduino Mega, which has more and a dedicated section of PWM pins. On your Arduinos, remember it's denoted by a squiggly line on your Arduino. Okay? There'll be a squiggly line or says PWM on your pins. That means that that pin supports PWM, and that's the pin you want to plug into. So in my case, I'm going to plug into pin 11. Okay? But you might have a different scenario. Okay? Alright, yep. Just give me 1 moment, I need to jump up back here.
One to ground. One to yeah, 11 because that's a PWM thing. Ground.
So once we get
Actually, no, you can't have no signature.
Does everyone have that in?
LD is in series.
Okay. Does anyone have any issue with that circuit? Remember, this is going to pin 11, not pin 13. Does anyone have any issues with that?
It's connected to pin, well, a PWM.
Alright.
This is wrong. This is wrong.
This is wrong because it's the wrong.
Yeah, pin. Wrong pin, yeah.
Wrong pin.
Pin 11, it's not pin 13. 13 does not support PWM. Only 11 supports 11, 10, 9, 6, 5, 3. It's full PWM.
So just a reminder, does anyone now have any issues with that circuit? Noting that this is actually plugged to pin 11. Last chance. Anyone? Yes? Alright. Cool. So, you have your circuit, and we're going to test that it works. Alright? We're going to test that it works with our little program that we're going to write. Cool. So, if everyone now can go and boot up Arduino by searching Arduino or however you want to do it, as long as you have it installed. Okay? We're now going to open up Arduino and we're going to start programming our Arduino board to follow that. Okay? So hopefully Arduino is booting up now, as is mine. And from here we can start to write our program. Now, unlike last week, we're going to do some more interesting stuff, right? And I'm going to start to introduce you to 2 other things we can do with programming to make things more interesting, okay? So let's just wait for it to turn on. And I think again I'm going to have to make the text nice and big for all of you. So, yes. 24. This seemed to work the last time. So, can everyone read that? Up the back, can everyone read that? Larger?
Yeah, you can do that. But I mean, it's better to understand it because you're doing a project kind of all.
Can everyone read that up back? Yes? Okay, cool. Alright, so it's also a little bit wide. There we go. Much better. Okay? So, from our program, hopefully you have some memory of what we did last week, in that we had 3 sections to our code that we had to worry about. The first section was defining what pin our LED or whatever other components we're going to deal with are plugged into. Our second section, which is the setup section, is where we establish anything that we need to initiate our code. In this case, obviously, we're going to declare that the pin, the LED, is an output. Okay? And then the loop is where all the stuff happens, in general, at least for basic circuits. Okay?
Basically.
So
imagine this as a series.
Sorry, up front, do you mind like lowering your volume a little bit? Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do as our first line of code, hopefully you remember from last week for those that came, is we're going to declare that our pin is plugged into some allocated number. Okay, so in this case, right, hopefully all of you remember that we were just plugging in the positive end of the LED to pin 11. Alright? Which means that we should declare that the LED in this code is defined as to pin 11, because from there we can reference that pin and change it at any point. Okay? So the way we're going to do this is we're going to define a constant. Okay? Just like last week, we're going to define a constant, and we're going to call it something that we can recognize. So in this case, I'm going to call it LED pin. And lastly, now we've declared that pin number, we're going to chuck in the number 11. Okay? That's it, right? We've now told our Arduino that the LED that we've plugged in is plugged into pin 11, and that any signals it sends will be sent through pin 11. Okay? And from this point onwards, anytime I want to reference that pin number, I'm going to reference LED pin. Okay? The next thing is in our setup. Okay. What we're going to do is just like last week, we need to tell our Arduino that in fact our LED is an output. Okay. And the way we're going to do that is by the command, which hopefully all of you remember, pin mode, right? And then we need to state 2 arguments into this command. The first one is the pin number, which is going to be LED pin. And the second one is what is it going to be, an input or an output? And in this case, it's going to be an output. So, if you follow me along, we're going to write LED pin and an output. Okay? Note that after definitions, so after the only commands where you don't put a semicolon at the end is constants. Okay? It's generally how it works. And for what you will be working with, that's all we need to know. Okay? So, once we've declared that the LED is now an output, we've done all the setup that we need to do. And lastly, now we can start to command the LED in ways that we wish to do so. What I'll do is quickly give you a refresher on last week, because the nature of the command is going to be very similar. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to tell the LED to turn on. What is the command, hopefully from last week that you remember, what is the command to tell the LED to turn on?
Digital write.
Digital write? Is that nice and loud?
Analog.
Digital
write, yeah? So hopefully you remember that we wrote digital write, right with the capital R. And then we're going to turn our pin, which is our LED pin, to high. Okay? And if you wrote that, then the LED will turn on forever, as it does before. It hasn't changed at all. And this is the way you're going to quickly test your program, right? So hopefully now you can upload your code, which I'm going to show you now. The first thing is to make sure that you've selected the correct board for the connected board, right? So in my case, I'm using Arduino Mega, which is this one here. The Arduino Genuino Mega, okay? For you guys, it would be the Uno up above, okay? So make sure you select the right board, and in my case, it's going to be the Mega. And then for the tools, you're going to, well, not that one, sorry. We're going to select the port, and it'll ask for serial ports which one to connect to, and in this case, you'll see that it marks which COM port you want to communicate to, and it'll tell you the board that is plugged into. So in my case, it tells you that's a Mega, right? And it identifies that. So we'll select that. And then finally, you can hit upload. Now, it might ask you, like last week, if you're opening a brand new piece of code, it'll ask you to save it. So let's just call this A Workshop 2, and we'll save that, okay? So it'll save your piece of code, and then what it will do is it will send that to the Arduino, and hopefully afterwards, your circuit will work. Okay, so it's still compiling, so still checking out whether there are any errors, okay? And hopefully very soon, we will get our code sent to Arduino, and from there, it should work, unless I have an error. Okay? Can everyone upload that? And if everyone's LED is not turning on, and you can't fix it, let us know, okay? So you see on the live stream, so for everyone who can see from there, it hasn't shown yet, but pretty much my LED is turned on, okay? It hasn't actually updated yet, it hasn't actually reflected that yet because I think there's an issue which I'll fix right now. But your LED at this point should turn on. So if it doesn't turn on, hands up, okay? I'm going to quickly fix this live stream and then we'll get back to you, okay? Rear. And webcam. Very good. Okay. Okay. So you see my LED is on. I'll get this out of the way. Sorry. Okay. You'll see that my LED is actually on. Okay. Which means that my code is working. If yours doesn't do the same, i.e. your LED doesn't turn on always, constant with that code, please let me know. Okay. I told them that. It doesn't do it, right? It's not there. Yeah. Okay? Anyone not with an on LED at this point? Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else doesn't have an LED? So we're about to do all the funky stuff. Okay, all the new stuff. Alright, let's go. So, what we're going to do, just to explain it to you, what we're going to do is we're going to make the LED turn on, but gradually. And then we're going to turn it back off, and then it's going to turn back on gradually. Okay, it's going to keep cycling that, right? One way to do it is we could turn it on to 1%, and we could run one line of code to turn it to 1%, delay it and then turn it on to 2%, and delay it and turn it on to 3%, and keep going further, right? And we would get a 200-line long piece of code, right? And that's really inefficient. There is a better way to do it, and hopefully, you remember when I explained deploy loop last week. When a loop runs through the same command, when it finishes the loop, it restarts it and it keeps going, right? What we can do is we can actually write our own loop such that if the LED is starting to turn on, right, then we can make it continue to get brighter until it's reached its brightest point. And once it's reached its brightest point, we can turn it off and we can make it start again. Okay? And we're going to be using two things. The first thing that's more fundamental is when I talk about writing analog signals, so we're talking about that whole variable scale, we need to use a command called analog write. And that's simply what it says, writing an analog signal. In the same way you might with a digital signal, we're going to do the same with analog signals. That's the first one, and we'll get to that very shortly. The second one, which I'm about to do now, is called a while loop. Right? A while loop basically, what it does is it loops every command contained inside it for the duration when the specified sort of condition is true. And this will make more sense as I explain through it, but what we're basically saying is if the LED is not at full brightness, keep increasing the brightness until you've reached that point. Right? So gradually we're going to keep bumping that brightness with the loop until it reaches that cap, and then we're going to reset it. Okay? And this will make a lot more sense when we start the program. So, let's delete that digital write. We don't need that anymore. We've tested out how LED works, our circuit's all well and good. So from this point onwards, you should know that very likely it's a program that might have some sort of issues. Okay? So, let's go along. The first thing I'm going to do before we make a start is introduce another new concept, which is called a variable, okay? And what we're going to do with a variable is all it does is contain information that we choose to, okay? In my case, I'm going to store the brightness of the LED. So at any point, I can check the value of this variable, right, to store what the brightness of the LED is at any instance, okay? So we're going to use this variable, and in my case, I'm going to create a variable called brightness, right? So, the way to create our variable brightness is going to be with int space, and then the name of your variable, so in my case it's going to be brightness, and then we're going to allocate it a value with equal sign. So in my case, I'm going to give it a value 0. Okay? This is how you start a variable, and the int at the very beginning refers to making sure that the variable stores integer values only. Yes? Okay, cool. I'll comment on real quick. Okay? Yep. Still got issues. Long and smooth in 11. Yes. It should be it should be the same. It all actually works. Usually just goes which means you need to store the okay, so doesn't matter. Check in the pack. So it's sort of matching range. Same as this one works. Okay. So we've created a variable, and now we're going to write our loop. Okay. So what I'm going to write is a while loop. So I'm going to write while. We're going to state our condition inside. and then we're going to store some commands inside that. So this loop inside what I'm about to write will only run if the condition I stated at the very beginning actually applies. Okay? In my case, remember that I was saying that we only may increase the brightness if it hasn't reached the maximum level of brightness. Right? So my commands inside here, the thing that I'm going to be checking for before I restart the loop is going to be if the brightness is less than the maximum. Okay? And the value for maximum brightness for an LED is going to be 255. Okay? So LEDs, there are different scales that you can work on, and in the case of LEDs, we work from 0 to 255. Okay? This actually varies depending on what you're using, but in terms of output, PWM output, we usually output between 0 and 255. And so what I'm checking here is the LED, the brightness of the LED stored inside this variable, going to be less than 255? If it is, then I need to run whatever's inside the loop, and what I'm going to run is increase the brightness. Okay? So, inside our loop now, inside the curly braces, we're going to write our actual command. And what I'm going to do is we're going to write an analog signal. Okay? We're going to update the brightness of the LED. Right? And in this case, the command is actually quite similar to what you have with digital writing. It's going to be specify the LED pin, and it's specify the value that you want to output. So remember that hopefully, you remember that our LED pin goes here, and the value we want to output is not going to be low or high, but now it's going to be the variable brightness, right? Because that's what we want to output to the LED. That's the brightness that we're going to turn it on to. So we're going to output an analog signal equal to the value of whatever brightness we have stored. Okay? Next thing.
Oh yeah.
Now that we've reflected that brightness value, if I run this loop through, and you guys can try this for yourselves, if you try uploading this loop, you'll notice that nothing actually happens. Right? If you run this loop, it's going to go brightness equals to 0, while brightness is less than 255, which it is, right? Set the brightness to 0, and then it's going to finish the loop, and it's going to restart the loop, and it's going to go, well, brightness is still equal to 0, even though I've made the brightness here equal to 0. And so it's going to check again, and it's going to go, well, brightness is still less than 0, and it's going to repeat that loop over and over again. And the reason why we're allowing this to happen is because there is no change to the value of the variable brightness. What this means is that for every time that we increase the brightness value of the LED, we need to increase the value of brightness. Right? In order for us to escape this loop, we need to be constantly changing the value of brightness as we go along. And so, we're now going to update the brightness value, okay? And I'm going to do it the dodgy way. The proper way is also much longer. We're not going to use hot sauce, we're going to use the dodgy way first, okay? So, I can modify the value of the variable with the equal sign, okay? And all we're going to do is we're going to add 5, or say add 1, depending on what value we want to add. Okay? Realize that you can only go up to 255. Okay? So in my case, I'm going to add 1. Right? There are 2 ways you can go about doing this, and I'm sure some of you already know the other way. But I'm going to do the dodgy way first, the lame way, the not cool way. Okay? So we're going to change the value of brightness by finding its original value and adding 1 to it. If I set brightness equals to 5, like so, this will not work because every time it passes through the loop, it's going to reset the value of brightness to just 5, and then it's always going to be less than 255, and it's always going to be at a brightness of 5, right? When realistically, we want to increase that brightness up until it reaches 255. Okay? So in my case, I'm actually going to increase the brightness by first adding it relative to its already existing value. And the way we can do that is by adding 1 to its original value. And so I'm calling its original value of brightness, I'm going to add 1 to it. And you'll notice that with this code, now it's going to iterate through it, it's going to constantly increase the value of brightness, and eventually we're going to reach 255, from which it exits the loop. Okay? Lastly, you guys remember from last week that we had issues with delay, in that if I tried to turn the LED on and off with my code, if I had no delay, you wouldn't notice that turning on and off because it went too quickly. And the same thing here, even though we have 255 values to run through, the Arduino will still do this really quickly. So let's add a delay, just like last week, and the way we can do that is with the delay command, and I'm going to specify the time in milliseconds. And remember that this is the delay per loop, because it's inside my loop function. Okay? And so in my case, I'm going to set a delay of 10 milliseconds. Okay? It's going to be pretty quick. It's going to be pretty quick LED. And you can change it to any value you like. You don't even need it to reach maximum brightness. You can always change this value, right? You can change it so that you can set the maximum cap for your LED. Right? We can make it increase at a faster rate if we want. We can change the delay, and we can change this value here so that it increases brightness at a much larger rate, and we can tweak all of that. Okay? Now that we've had a delay in our while loop, and that loop is now complete. Okay? The last step we're going to do is I'm going to turn the LED back off once it has turned fully on. Okay? And the way, hopefully you remember, is we're going to digital write back to our LED. Okay? And we're going to set it to a low signal. Yes?
Could you instead just digital byte after the brightness value, or analog byte after?
Right here?
No, after when you initialize brightness value, because then it will go through the loop, it will set it to 0, then it will go all the way up, then it will go back to the beginning and it will set it to 0.
Yeah. So this code technically automatically does that, but it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, so rather make courses. But I don't know what you mean. It's actually automatic.
Yeah.
Okay? But we can set our LED back to 0, okay? And from there, if I shorten all this spacing, this code should now work. Okay, so let's try uploading it to our boards. Let's press upload. It should automatically save as well. Compile. So just check for errors. So let us know if there's any errors. Looks like there are none. And you'll notice that the LED is turning on until it reaches full brightness, and it should just turn off and turn back on. Yes? Yours doesn't turn back on? That's concerning. Alright.
That's right.
I feel like there's too many lines of code.
Yes.
Just all these blinking lights going. I love how you see, once again, you don't wear waiting. I'm doing some waiting, so I'm first in the box, but I've done the outside of the computing. Now I do the instructions.
How are you going to see sharp? How are you going to see sharp? I don't agree.
I mean, it's only limited is object oriented instead of.
I can't stand pointers.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
That's not me. I haven't learned them.
Yeah.
Have you seen Objective-C though? Yeah, that is some crazy high.
Man, why would you do this?
Yes, exactly.
Come to everything you're supposed to.
how you do run functions, you use square brackets rather than dots. It's pain.
I can't stand that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy with this. This is good. I don't mind curling brackets. Just keep the curls. Keep the curls, please.
Dylan, can you replace the Arduino board? Do you know the longer access? I'll chase you up, I'll give you a board, and go through it. Okay? Cool. Anyone else? Does anyone have who has a fading LED at this point? Who has a fading LED at this point? Anyone on this side? Come on. Have you guys got this working yet? Yes, you got a few confident ones? Anyone not have it at this point? Not have a fading LED? Both of you up back? Okay. I'm going to show you the footage so you can see what we're looking at here. That's all we should be seeing, which is there you go, the LED started turning on and off, on and off, on and off.
That's more actually.
That's what it should look like. Okay? Anyone else who hasn't got a working program?
Have you tried using monitors?
Yes.
What I call just use monitors and you just have one of the sideways segments.
Yeah, true.
I feel like your code is too long.
It's too long, but it explains it.
But at the same time, if you leave the program running for too long then with the motors, then eventually you'll just kill itself. Because the variable gets big enough.
No, long, because one is set back to 0.
That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a bit long, but it explains it.
Yeah.
I'm not making it the most efficient, and if you want me to discuss it, okay?
So we know what's going on.
Alright? Anyone else not have it working at this point?
I just want to see what it says.
Anyone else not have it working at this point?
So I thought we were thinking about putting the modules inside the bracket.
Alright.
So
Sure.
inside the...
Let's keep going.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It's just one single thing.
Cool.
Yeah, no.
So,
I don't think... Yeah.
I wonder now,
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. I think you're saying...
as an exercise, a quick exercise, we're going to spend 5 minutes on this, okay? Can I get everyone's attention? The next exercise you're going to do is now, we're going to change a few qualities, and I'm going to get you guys to do this before I show you. Instead of making the LED pulse on, let's make the LED turn on first, then pulse off. Okay? We want the LED to turn on first, and then gradually turn off. And it'll turn back on, and it'll gradually turn off. Okay? Can I get everyone to attempt that? And I'll show you the answer in about 5 minutes. And if you need any help, come and shoot your hand up and I'll get to you.
Time to do bitwise operations.
Does everyone have it working? Who has it working so far? Let's figure it out. We can turn the LED on, and then fade it down. Awesome. Alright, let's keep going. I'll give you maybe 2 more minutes, and then I'll show you the solution. Alright, because we're a little time tight, I'm actually going to start immediately. Alright, so the solution, hopefully you've come up with it, is we're going to first set the brightness at the beginning of our loop to 255 because we want maximum brightness. Then I'm going to check that the brightness is greater than 0 because I want to check whether the LED is on or not. If it's still on, I want to turn it off. Okay? So I'm going to set it so if my brightness is greater than 0, we're going to keep decreasing that brightness. And the last thing is going to be to change is that minus sign. Okay? So we're decreasing the brightness, not increasing. As well, some of you might have figured out that this line of code is actually useless. Okay? Because once it reaches the end of this while loop, the brightness becomes 0 and it just restarts. But I'm adding it in there to explicitly show you that sometimes it's useful to see. Okay? You don't have to have it in. Okay? It's just for demonstration purposes. That's all I showed you before. And in this case, I'm going to set that brightness to high. Okay? That's all we need to address, and that should give you the solution to the problem. So if we upload that now, and I'll take a look at my LED there. Okay, it will now be on and fade off. Okay, and I'll reflect that right now. Okay, so that's what you should see inside there. Okay.
Is it true that this program will never ever do an analog write of 0?
I'm not 100% sure.
Because it's not greater than 0.
Yes. So you'll never actually write 0. Because it was, it will never write.
Yeah, you need to change the order around.
Yeah,
This order.
Yeah.
No,
let's start at 256.
But it can't be greater than equal to because it's equal to 0.
Yeah, you just need to change the order around and start at 256.
Yes.
Right. Because it'll go, while brightness is, say, 1 is greater than 0, it'll return it, and then it'll turn this to 0. So that's why you need to flip this.
Yeah.
But we were working.
And plus, it's 256.
Getting out of that way, we're going to move on, okay?
It's 256.
Hopefully now, you guys know a little bit about analog signals. And the next example we're going to do is going to be the same. we're going to work again with analog signals. Dylan, can you help this guy out? Yep. Okay. So we're going to work with analog signals again, but for different applications. So for once, we're not going to touch an LED. Right? And I'm actually going to shift the order of this workshop a little. I'm going to work on programming a server. Okay? So, if I had one in my kit, which I do, hopefully each of you in your basic kits should have this blue servo. Okay? I'll show it to the live stream real quick. There you go, there's a blue servo for the live stream. Okay? When you have one of these blue rectangles, okay, this is a servo motor. Servo, okay? And this is what we're going to program. And what it has is this little white circle at the very end. And in your kits, you'll also have this plastic bag with some white sections on it, okay? And what we can do is we can insert those white sections to the head of the servo, and we can actuate and rotate that section, and that's what we're going to control, okay? So, if you want to go into your kits, I don't have one in mind, but if you want to jump into your kits and you want to plug in one of those connectors to the end of the servo, then you'll get a moving element, okay? You'll get this rotating piece that will work on that, okay? What we need to do is we need to wire up our servo straight to power, okay? You can plug the power pin, so that's the red and the black, on Arduino, or red and brown, okay? You can plug those straight into your Arduino board, into the 5V and ground pins, as is shown in this diagram, or you can also plug them in to the positive and negative rails on your breadboard and connect those to 5V and ground. Because sometimes you need to have multiple loopings going into ground, and you don't want to shove everything into the same pin, right? So in my case, I'm going to plug it straight to ground because it's the last mechanical device we're going to work today. You might squeeze in the last entity. Okay? So, if everyone wants to grab 3 more jumper leads to connect the servo to the pins of the Arduino, 3 more leads, okay? And preferably try and grab different colors so you can see which one's which, but it's not necessary, okay? It's not necessary, but you can, it's optional.
That's very
Okay? And what we need to do is you'll notice that on the end of your servo, there is a black head, or this sort of pin head at the very end where you plug wires into. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to plug the red wire, if you have one, into the red pin that corresponds to the same red wire in that tri-wire, that 3 cell wires. Okay? You're going to plug the red pin into that, and then you're going to do the same for the other 2, noting the color scheme. Okay? So maybe I'll have, because I don't have a black wire for some random reason, we're going to plug the yellow wire into the ground, or the ground cable. Okay? Doesn't matter, as long as you keep track of the colors. Okay, we're going to put that in there. It should sync nice and tight into there. Okay? And lastly, we're going to plug our orange, you like this orange, but if you want something different, we plug your orange into the 3rd pin. Okay? After that, you should have your servo with 3 wires out there. I know it looks ridiculous, but there are servo wires designed for this, which we don't have in our kits, but you'll be able to buy them. Okay? Now that you have this, we need to plug our servo into power and to our Arduino. And so if you follow the diagram, the red wire, or the wire that corresponds to the red line on the Arduino, on the servo, needs to plug into the 5V on your Arduino. And the 5V is located next to ground. Okay? So I'm going to do that right here on the live stream. Okay? And we'll get to the code. Alright, so your red wire should go into the power, the 5V pin of your Arduino. Okay. So right in there. Your yellow wire, okay, or sorry, not your yellow wire, your brown wire on your server lead needs to be connected to ground, okay? And ground obviously is just G and D as before. And the last wire, the orange wire on your server lead, corresponds to the signal wire of the servo. And what we're going to be sending through there is the analog signals to tell it what rotation we're going to send it to. What rotation we're send it to. Okay? So, we're going to plug it into another PWM pin. Okay? So you should know that you have some other pins along there. I think pin 9 on the Uno is also PWM. Okay? And you're going to plug it into whatever pin you wish. In my case, I'm going to plug it into pin 9. Okay? Make sure that the pin you're plugging into has the distributed line or PWM to know that it supports PWM. Okay? Now our server should have some power, but obviously it's not working at this point, so we don't have program set up. Yes?
We still need our breadboard.
You still need the breadboard? Not for the server. Not for the servo, but you can use the breadboard if you have other devices you want to attach. So say you want a circle with both LEDs, you want something working with both LEDs and a servo, then you'll need a breadboard. Or for this one, any ground will work. Okay? So, cool. We got that to work, and now, what we need to do is, now we're going to jump onto Arduino. So I'm going to close, minimize this window a little bit, and we'll jump onto Arduino. Okay? Yep. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make our motor sweep. What that is it's going to slide across a series of angles. Okay? And realize that you can tweak that angle to your dreams. Okay? If that's what you want to do. Okay? But for now, I'm just going to show you how to sweep it over some arbitrary angle. Okay? Which is predefined by the servo. Okay? So, hopefully you remember from before, there are a lot of things that you need to set up. Okay? And it turns out that the process is actually pretty similar to this one. Okay? What I need everyone to do, if you want to save this program, you can, and we can start a new sketch, because we're going to start a new one, okay? And we can minimize the old one, right? We can always go back to it, you can always add on to it later on, but I'm going to just open a new one so you don't have to tab and you don't lose your original code, okay? So, inside here, alright, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same process. We're going to do some sort of declaration of what pin, we're going to set up our initial stages, and then we're going to program the actual server. In the case of servers, however, there is one additional step I have to make at the very beginning, right? Because of how we can program servers to control what angle they're going to, we're going to need to include the server library. And the way we're going to do that is #include, and then inside some angled braces, server.h. Okay? This refers to the server library that allows us to easily control our server. Okay? Because the server has its own subset of commands. Right? Next thing is we're going to actually name our server. So this is the point where if you're trying to think of baby names, you can try to think of one, but we need to think of a name for our servo, okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to declare that there is a servo that exists with the servo command, okay? Now we're going to name our servo with some sort of name. In my case, I'm going to follow my notes here, and I'm actually going to call it the exact same thing that I called it last time. My dog, okay? Because I want to build a dog project. I know it's named fun, but we'll go with that, okay? I'm going to name my servo my dog, for no apparent reason, okay? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do as we did before with LED. We're going to tell it, Arduino, that our servo is in fact an output, okay? And hopefully you remember what we did before, which was define, and now we're going to call out the servo pin. Okay? And remember that you guys plugged your server hopefully to another pin that's not 11 or 13. And you guys should be able to tell me, but most of us should have plugged into pin 9. Okay? As I did in mine, please make sure that you check based on what you plugged it into. Not necessarily like in your case. Okay? Sorry, close this. This is getting away.
Oh.
No, I don't want to lose my real estate. It's not the same, it's fine. Let's reduce just a little. Alright, cool. So now that you've defined your pin number, we can finally go on to the next step, which is we're going to add and declare that our pin is output. But the way it works with servers is again quite different. What we're going to do instead of what we usually do, and I'm going to just show this so you can see all the code before, yes, you need a copy. Alright, what we need to do is we need to attach a server object. Okay? Not like before we said pin mode, LED pin was an output. This time it's actually a little bit different, and instead we're going to declare it with a different command because it's a server. Right? And there's some special reason, which I don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to write the server name. So in my case, mine's my dog. You might have something different. Okay? Just the name of whatever server you named it. And we're going to modify by adding attach with a full stop before that. Okay? Dot attach. And what pin are we attaching this server to? Servo pin, right? It's not pin 9, we're attaching the servo pin, referencing that number. Okay? Servo pin. And that's it, right? Just like before, all we need to do is tell it it's an output, in my case, it's a server. Now we can move on to the last stage, and we can loop it around. Okay? We're actually going to use another new technique in this one. Remember that before we were using while loops, and if you think about it, you can use a while loop to make your Arduino swing. Right? If the angle is less than, say, 180 degrees, which is the maximum angle that your servo can turn, if your servo angle is less than 180 degrees, turn towards 180 degrees. If your angle is greater than 0, turn towards 0. We can do that with while loops. Right? You guys can hopefully already start to picture a solution with that. But instead, I'm going to try and teach you another one real quick, and it's very similar in format, but there is a small slight difference in the very first thing. Okay? Before we use what's called a while loop, and now we're going to use a for loop. Okay? And the for loop does something very similar, except it contains its own argument that it increases for a certain amount of increments. Okay, so whilst a while loop can run infinitely, as long as the condition is true, a for loop runs it only for a set number of times. Do you want to say something?
Quick note, we have more Arduino kits for sale now, the basic kits. If you'd like to get one, we've just packed them. Johanna and the sales team are out in the corridor. Feel free to get one if you want, and we'll also have some next week, but they might run out next week, so
we'll bring some. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to need to specify some sort of variable. And we need some sort of variable. Last time we had brightness. Alright, and this time, I'm going to create one called angle. Okay? And we're going to store the angle of the servo's turning, right, as a variable. And in this case, I'm just going to set that equal to 0 for now. Right? The initial angle is 0. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it start from that 0 point, and we're going to make it increase up to some point. Okay? Now, to do that, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to start a for loop with some condition which makes it iterate as certain number of times. So the way we're going to do it is I'm going to write for, right? For loop, so it's going to start with for. We're going to have some condition inside there, and we're going to have a loop on which we iterate, on which we repeat that loop and a set of commands inside. Okay? Inside these brackets here, the first curly brackets, parentheses, we're going to have 3 parts to our bracket, right? The first one is just the initial value. The second one is the condition that we have to test. And the third one is the actual thing we're going to do to our original variable. It's a bit messy, but let me explain, right? And I'm going to explain it by example. What I need to do is set an initial condition. And I know I've already set this before. I've already established it just above, but for the sake of making it clear, I'm going to make it as a separate loop. Okay? We're going to separate it with a semicolon, right? And I'm going to write now the condition for the angle variable that I want to specify. So for each loop, it's going to do something to the angle variable, right? It's going to modify it. And in our case, our angle is going to increase until it reaches some sort of maximum, right? And so what I'm going to say is my condition for this for loop is it's only going to run if my angle is less than 180 degrees. Okay? The loop is only going to run if it's less or equal to 180 degrees. Lastly, we're going to tell the for loop that after each loop, increase the value of the angle. Before, I told you guys that we can write angle equals angle plus 1 to increase that value. Okay? This time, I'm not going to plus it that way. We're going to actually do a different command which is for plus plus. Okay? And it does the same thing to what we had before, except now it's a lot shorter, and we're adding 1. Okay? That's the point of that command. Okay? So instead of writing angle equals angle plus 1, we now have a much shorter format, angle plus plus. Okay? Now, that's our for loop, which means that inside this loop, any command that's inside the loop, it's going to run with an initial condition of angle equals to 0. It's going to run as long as it's below or equal to 180. And it's going to set the angle, it's going to increase the angle of each loop. Okay? That means we don't have to write angle plus plus at the end of our loop. Right? Okay? Now, inside our loop, we're now going to actually set the angle of the loop. So, in my case, I'm going to again command my dog to do something, right? And in this case, we're going to actually command it to output a certain angle. I'm going to output by writing a signal towards it of angles, right? I'm going to tell it to write out whatever angle is stored in that variable. Okay? So what's going to happen now is exactly what we described, right? It's going to start with an initial angle of 0. As long as it hasn't swept across to the maximum angle, it's going to keep increasing that angle. And it's going to write that angle to the actual server. And we're going to see that. Okay? The last thing we need is just like with the LED can turn on and off really quickly. Okay? Whereas the servo, you will notice, might be a bit difficult to do that. Right? And to minimize the risk of our servers blowing up, right, we're going to add a little delay to it. Okay? Just to make sure the server can keep up with us. Okay? And so I'm going to write this delay in just for stability. And I'm going to set it as 15 milliseconds. Okay? It's not too quick. Okay? What I want you guys to do now is remember that we want our server to sweep back and forth, right? So let's now, everyone here, write another for loop that sweeps it back from 180 to 0. Okay? Using what you know from my loop here, you can take all the references from it, everyone write the same loop that makes it go from 180 back to 0. Okay? It shouldn't be too difficult, and it's very similar in form.
But at the same time, it probably doesn't go like microcontroller like this. But it's just like, I don't know what to do with the signal, please fix.
Why? Oh, it must be the resistance.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Like I told you, the force, like resisting. Because that's one way to generate these. And that motive. Oh, I know. The sudden change. Every time you suddenly change direction, that probably eats it up.
Yeah, that's probably the scene.
Yeah, that would make sense. Maybe now coded so it slows down and so suddenly changing direction. Time for some maths.
No, it's pretty easy. You just go if
Oh yeah.
is less than or equal to. Yeah, less than.
Or you can just install the math functions.
No, math functions.
Hey guys, could you please make sure you sign the ARC form before you go? If you haven't signed it, where are they? They're at the back on that table. Please sign them before you go. Helps keep us alive so we don't make a loss.
Which one of the math functions?
Import math.h.
Calculate a parabola and it switches into
Calculate the logarithmic function. Easy. We'll just calculate it by difference two squares. I know, I'm just saying that.
Okay? Does everyone have some sort of program going? Yeah? Okay, let's give it a shot. Right? And if we run into any issues, we'll notice. Okay? So, again, I'm going to set a maximum value. Right? And what we could do is we could just plug in 180. Okay? We could just plug in 180. But let's say that I don't want to sweep from 0 to 180. Right? Let's say I want to sweep from 0 to 180, and instead maybe I want to sweep from 10 to 17, as I suggested. Okay? For now, I'll set it to 0 to 180, but we might test different sweep angles. And I want to make my code easy to do that. Okay? I want to make my code easy to do that. So instead of changing 0 and 180 to whatever value I want, what I'm going to do is what we know before as variables. I'm going to create a new variable that we can easily change that's equal to the maximum angle achievable for our server that we want to program to. And so in this case, I'm going to set it to 180. Right? And I'm going to set a minimum angle of 0 degrees. Okay? So now we have two new variables that hold whether the server is sweeping from a minimum to maximum. Okay, that's defined by variables rather than by explicit numbers. Okay, we can reference these variables to reference set numbers. Okay, so notice that here now,
we can chuck min angle here and max angle here. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. This one is min angle, and this one here is max angle. Okay? So my angle is equal to minimum, it's going to approach max angle, and it's going to increase for when that condition holds true, and it's going to update that angle along. And now, this makes our second for loop quite easy. I'm going to set my initial angle as max angle. I'm going to decrease that angle so long as it's greater than 0. In my case, I'm going to set it as that. And then we're going to have, as long as it's greater than our min angle, it will reflect that. Okay, greater than or equal to. Okay, then I'll reiterate that loop. Okay. Sorry, I'm slipping there. Cool. Alright, then hopefully you know the rest of it. We're going to tell our servo to output that angle, and we're going to delay it again. Okay? And that's your full section of code, which hopefully will work. Okay? I noticed that might be a little issue, but we're about to find out. So if you want to upload that code, and because I started a new script, we're going to need to save it as AW2x21 or to 2. Hopefully that will work. And what should happen is your server should start to move. Okay? If your server is glitching, as mine is, then you probably might know the error that I made. Okay? Let's see how we could get it. Yes? Because I'm containing what is inside of the service. So the curly braces of me, and this is tiny. Well, whatever's contained inside the curly braces will fall. The difference is now I can change the value very easily. So at any point I'll show you. Does everyone have a somewhat moving server at this point? Yes? Is anyone's glitching? It blocks, right? Yep. I'm about to get started. Okay. So show you what to do. form of moving servo. Some form of moving servo. Yeah?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Right? Who doesn't have a moving servo?
Alright, can you help?
Anyone else? Great. So, what you might notice like my servo is doing is it might glitch towards the end. And that's because these servos are not very expensive. Okay? These servos are admittedly not the nicest sort of servos you can expect. And so they actually have a range that's different to 0 to 180. Okay? I won't do this here, but what you need to do to change it is to tweak with the max and min angles such that it will sweep very nicely without running into its limits. And I know this sounds stupid, but that's what happens with these servos, is when you, and especially these ones, these are restricted on a 0 to 180 degree rotation, but it might set 0 degrees outside of what it can actually do. So, what you need to do is experiment, and we don't have time to do that in like 10 minutes. I'm going to do one last example, right? But it won't be able to sweep past that angle. But you can now, because of the tweak that I did with the min and max angle, we can very quickly change those limits so that you can sweep properly. Does it make sense, everyone? Yeah? Cool.
Anyone's not working? Alright, I'm going to try and go around and help everyone since it's not working right now.
Okay? Cool. Alright. We have enough time to do one last example here. Okay? And this one, you can unplug your Arduinos now. You can unplug everything off your Arduino. Because this last one is going to be about serial communication. Alright? This is quite useful for multiple things, but I think the largest use for this that we can apply is checking that values stored in Arduino, such as variables, are correct, are what we expect. Okay? Sometimes we run into issues and we really don't know why it's running into that issue, and we can use serial communication to print out values that we want. Okay? Sometimes there are certain values and we don't know where it's at, and we can use serial communication to tell us the value of those variables. Okay? And we can use it using the serial monitor on a laptop. I think my laptop's about to die, so give me a moment. Okay? And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to write a program that's going to open this monitor, or it's going to open communication to this serial monitor, okay? And we're going to get the Arduino to tell us some stuff. In this case, I've written that this Arduino wants to go and so on. You can write whatever you want, okay? So, let me just quickly plug this in so I'll have to by. Okay. Cool. Alright, so let's quickly jump back into our Arduino program here. Okay. In my case, I'm going to start a brand new sketch again. Okay, you can do whatever you want.
Whose server is not working? Raise your hand if you need help with server. Alright, cool.
Cool. Alright, so we're going to make this last bit pretty quick. And this one is actually not too bad. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to print some lines of code in what's called the serial monitor. And where we can find it, in the top left, on the top right hand corner, there's a little button, and it's called the serial monitor. If you click it, you'll open up what the Arduino can output to you and what you can communicate towards it. Okay? For the moment, I'm just showing you that this exists. We're not going to actually open it until we've written our program, because otherwise we won't actually see anything. Right? So let's just close it real quick. Okay? There are several things we need to do. Okay? Maybe two, but we might tweak a little bit and Matt do some reading as well. Right? Firstly, we don't have anything to define. We don't have any pins to declare. Right? It's inbuilt into Arduino. And the first step we're going to do is we're going to establish that communication with Arduino. And the way we're going to do that is with the command serial.begin. Okay? And what I'm going to chuck in there is a random number 9600. Okay? And for a specific reason, Arduino can communicate on several different what's called baud rates. Okay? There's a lot of complex things which I won't go into, but generally speaking, 9600 works in nearly all cases, okay? Nearly all cases. And so,
baud rate is like a language. If you tell the Arduino to speak 9600, anything else that's listening in has to listen on to 9600. You can get Python to listen into serial if you want, as long as it's on 9600. So just keep that in mind. And there's like a preset set of languages, like just others. Yeah, pretty much.
It's almost like the frequency that you set your radio to. Almost, but not quite. But again, you don't have to worry about it too much for the moment, okay? Generally speaking, 9600 works for a lot of what we do here. Okay? So, now we've established that channel to start with. That's all we need to do. And now in our loop, we're going to actually print some text out. Okay? This is very easy to do. There are two commands, they're both very similar. One is called serial print, and one is called serial print ln. Okay? Serial print prints in line with whatever you're printing with. So I'm going to show an example here. We're going to write serial.print, okay? And print is the command where I'm going to write some text. And it's going to write whatever's inside that bracket to you, okay? In my case, just to prove what print does and what the difference between print and print ln are, I'm going to write A. And notice how I put it in double apostrophes. Okay, now notice how I put it in quotation marks. Why I've done that and why you notice that it sometimes blue is because it's loaded by what's called a string. So previously we've been working with a lot of numbers, and previously when we created variables we denoted it with int or integer because we're dealing with integer values. Whereas now, this is a new type of data that we can store, where inside the quotation marks we can store any form of text, and it's denoted by the quotation marks. Okay? So majority of characters, all the letters, all the numbers you can store in space bar, a few punctuation ones. Okay? So, I'm just going to print LA for the moment, just to show you a point, and I'm going to add a delay so it doesn't spam us, right? Let's add a delay of maybe 1 second. Okay? That's all I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to hit upload. And we'll see here again, it's going to ask us AW23. Okay? Next, it's going to upload, and that's it, right? If I hit the serial monitor after I've uploaded this new code, you'll notice that A starts to appear on the screen. And it's starting to go across, right? What will actually happen is I'll keep going across because it's not starting a new line. And the reason for that is because the serial print command never starts a new line unless you use the serial print ln command, which means start a new line print. Okay? So let's quickly make a change to our program so that now the A's don't show horizontally, the A's show vertically. The way we're going to modify that is very simple. All we need to do is we need to add ln to our code. Yes? This is yours is like why do people's why does the issues? Alright, what's the
So just to clear up, remember the code you're writing runs on your Arduino. So you still need to have your Arduino plugged in when you're running this program, because it runs on your Arduino. Even though it's not talking to any electronics and it's talking to serial, it still runs on your Arduino. So keep it plugged in.
Sorry, I didn't make that clear. Everyone can see not plugged in. Alright, so make sure your Arduino is still plugged in, right? Because this is serial communication direct with the Arduino. Remember, we're still programming Arduino itself, not anything else. Okay? So I've just made this quick change, and I've said print ln instead of print. And I upload that to, we'll save it's on, It upload, and now, in the serial monitor, hopefully what you'll see if I get out of the way, is the A's start to appear vertically. What's happening is now, because I've changed the command to print ln, it's now printing on a new line each time. Printing a new line each time, printing a new line. Okay? That is how we deal with prints. Okay? And this is about as much time as I can squeeze out of this because it's been I believe outside. So I think we're going to actually finish it at that. Okay? Does everyone have this working, by the way? Does everyone have some sort of, who doesn't have some sort of serial working at this point? Who doesn't have some sort of serial working at this point? Okay? Before everyone goes, and before I know everyone's starting to get restless, just a few things from you guys, if you guys could just stay a little bit longer. I thank everyone again for coming to this workshop, okay? I wanted to update you guys, if you guys want to get involved with what we do, because you're still curious about it, and I know we're running for first workshops, just a few updates if you guys don't mind just sticking around a few more minutes, okay? Next week's workshop is going to involve us actually building a car. It's going to be chaotic. I need to make all the kits on Sunday, okay? Which means I need to know exactly how many people want to build a car. Okay? No, before everyone puts their hands up, I know everyone wants to. I'm not sure if Farhan is still around and made the form or not. He made a Google form, I think. It's on Facebook. Yeah. So, if you jump onto our Facebook page, okay, to this event, and I think it's going to be announced on the page anyway, if you fill in the Google form, and I'm going to do it right now, okay, fill in the Google form with some of the details that we need from faculty, okay? From there, I will then make sure that you will have a plates and a caster wheel for a kit that you will build the car in next week. Okay? And I will be doing this on Sunday here. So, if you don't get your name on that list by then, you will not have a car. I will warn you. If you don't have it by then, I will not have one for you, and I will be checking ZIDs. So, make sure if you want to fill it in right now as we speak, you can do that.
Messenger us if you have any problems finding the Google form. But we need to make the cars. So make sure you fill it in and make one for us.
Have you already uploaded?
It should be yes, it's on the event.
I found it a link to the doc at the start of the session and I uploaded it.
Pizza is on its way. Please make sure you sign the out forms, and if you want to go.
I'm going to do more things. Alright? So, just to update you, so obviously at this point, some of you may only know us via our workshops, but I want to now that hopefully starting to get familiar with some of us, I want to start to introduce you to some of the other things we do. Okay? This Friday, and I'm not sure Dylan if you checked the email on where the location is, but there's a social happening this Friday, which is a chill session for everyone with free pizzas. Okay? And I know it sounds stupid, but there's gonna be board games, we're gonna have video games running, we'll have I think 2 weeks at the moment, one Nintendo Switch maybe. So all I want is that if you have some time, you want some free food, you want to come and chill with us, okay? We're introducing social events this year to sort of really get to meet a lot more of our community, okay? I'll be there for the second hour, and we can all sort of talk if you want. But it's a nice social event for everybody just to meet up. So if you are available, it's running on Friday, 3 to 5 o'clock. The location, I think, is yet to be confirmed. Yeah, the location is yet to be confirmed, so it's not exactly what it's on right now. I think it's going to be in Tyree, but I will confirm that on the event. If you are interested in that, keep an eye out for that. Another thing, next week we have what's called a maker fair. Okay? And this is again one of Create's new endeavors that I'm pushing through. The maker fair is basically where a bunch of people will bring in their projects, personal projects. I'll bring my own as well. Okay, I have a few projects that I will bring in myself, and we'll showcase them for you guys to see. Okay? If you have your own projects, you can bring them in as well. because, and the key thing I want to tell you, is there is prize money for the People's Choice Award at the Maker Fair. Okay? So, if you have some cool projects that you've either worked on in the past, or maybe now you have some knowledge because you've done some Arduino, hopefully now you can start to build your own projects. And if you're really proficient and think you're really smart like some people are, that's totally funny, build one. Build something and bring it to next week's Maker Fair. Okay? So it's on Wednesday, I think, or Thursday. I think we're agreeing on at the moment. Was it Thursday or Wednesday?
Check Facebook.
Check Facebook, maybe. But it's it'll be on next Wednesday or Thursday for your lunch. Okay?
If you guys need help with your projects, please message us and reach out to us. We'd love to help you guys with your projects. If you take these Arduino skills you've learned today, put something together, come to the Maker Fair next week and present it. It'd be really awesome.
Yeah, so the Maker Fair will happen next week, okay? Again, we're going to try and actually buy some nicer pizza or some nicer different food. Surprise, surprise! So, if you are interested, please come along to that event. It'll be on our Facebook, and we're trying to make this a thing of bringing our community of makers together, because this is what we're really about, okay? One last thing that I want to announce, okay? Create is running this program called Create Starters, okay? And what Create Starters is about trying to foster random projects, okay? So this guy walked up to me about a week this year, and he said, hey, I heard you have the Starters program, can I build a railgun? Okay? A railgun. So, you know, projectile magnetic, right? And I said, that's a cool idea. I dig it, except the fact that it would shut me down, okay? So the only reason why I wouldn't do it is because I would literally get banned from the uni, okay? That's the only reason why I'm not supporting it. But, if you have any similar idea, insane or not, if any cool idea at all, okay, we are opening up our program for a launch night on week 5. And what happens at the launch night is you propose your idea in front of an audience, okay, it doesn't have to be super professional, we don't care about that. If you have some amazing idea and you think that you can make it work, and you can convince us it's a cool idea, you can convince everyone that's a cool idea, if you have that idea, and it can be insane, propose it in the night, okay, so it's in week 5, and this will be on our Facebook very soon, and in our newsletters if you're not already on our newsletters, okay? But pretty much you can pitch your idea to us, okay? And what ends up happening is whoever wins, we will market that team and we'll try and get a team together to work on it, so that people can learn some new skills, and we'll try and bring one of our mentors on, and you get $500 to start. You can get more later on, but the initial payment is $500 for that project. The reason why we want to push this out is because every other project we've run in the past has actually been fostered off this program, and it has been discontinued in the past, and we want to really bring it back, because this is what we're really about, right? At the moment, we're currently trying to rebuild a BB-8 from Star Wars. Okay? We have one in our lockers, but it's not fully working. It was working for some time and it broke, and that actually was started off Stardust. Okay? We have another one called Debbie, which is this red vehicle, which maybe if you guys came on the Tuesday of our week, you might have seen me being a hooligan on it. But pretty much, there's this RC car that's really heavy duty. It weighs a lot, okay? Because maybe 200 kilograms. Okay? It can carry me around, it can carry a lot of people around, and it's supposed to drive around uni by itself. And the only way that would have worked is if we had a team to work on it and we needed some money. And Create here is willing to foster these ideas. So again, if you have some insane idea, right, and you have a few weeks to think about it, to week 5, think about it, write a submission on our Facebook, which we're going to release when the event comes out, okay? And it's going to be in week 5, propose an idea, and if it's great and people love it, we will fund you for it.
Yeah, thanks. So I mean, just put 3 sections for that. Entrepreneurial ventures, personal projects, and projects that could become competitions at the university. We've identified these 3 as like potential for growth within the university. So.
But it doesn't matter what idea. We like realistically we categorize everything, but realistically I don't really care. If it's a cool idea, awesome. I love it. I want to hear from you guys. Okay? So yeah. Lastly, just repeating, if you haven't signed an ARC form, who hasn't signed an ARC form yet? Ooh, you guys need to go now before some bad things happen. Such as us losing $1 from ARC. Make sure you do that because we do get funding for pieces. Okay, that's what we sign up forms every time. Other than that, make sure again if you want a car, sign the form on the event. Okay. Other than that, thank you so much for coming in. I know I've kept you around for another 6 minutes or 7 minutes, but pizza's outside. Please go. Please don't be too crazy. Nice and civil. Okay, we're all civil. Please sign the out form. Okay. Other than that, thank you so much, guys, for coming, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yes. So like, I know that like to power the device, you can just using one of the pins to be output and power that for this LED. Yes. For example, you need to have both that rise for the 5 volt, one for the pin. So you need both that to power the servo.
It's to do with the power equipment of some of these things. Okay? So you can't always plug because the way this works, the servo works, is it needs a constant power source and it needs to know what angle it is. So the angle that you feed into the LED is not equal to the exact power that you feed it. Okay, there's a lot of complicated things, and you'll find the same thing happens with lights sometimes. And so, in order to tweak it to a specific angle, the way the code inside the servos works means that we actually have to use the servo library to open servos, which means that we need to have a signal line. And that's just the way that servos have been designed.
This similar to the thing that last week we have a button and we need a 5 volt for that.
No, actually, buttons actually can also. So, the thing with buttons is you feed power into it. It's constantly having power, but it's like a gate that we close. If you press the button, it opens again, and you suddenly get signal into your wire. But you always need to limit the current going through it so it doesn't burn anywhere, which is why we have the resistor and ground. It leaks a bit of current through that. And then some of it goes into signal, which we need away. That's why the resistance is there. But you notice that it's still one chain primarily going from power through the button, and when you press the button, it actually opens the switch.
Yes, the question is like last week I remember that it's not using the power from the pin, using the power from the 5 volts. So why is that? Why is that?
Because these pins don't necessarily supply power. So what I can do is I can plug the power pin into a separate pin and give the 5 volts from it by saying digital right power.
But the 5 volt gives it out constantly.
Yes. The 5 volt is constant power
versus the other one. You have to explicitly say put power out of this pin.
So there's 2 different things, and it's a bit messy, but hopefully that gives you a better understanding.
So if we declare the pin to be like the output,
and you set that to full, then you send the same amount of power.
Oh, so it's equivalent to like 5 volts.
Because on-off is 5 volts.
But because we have this 5 volt, means that you say that you have 10 LEDs, you can power them all, or 10 servos, you can power them all off one 5 volt rail on your breadboard instead of 5 pins that are just giving power and 5 pins for signal. Instead you would have 5 pins for signal and all of them are connected to 5 volts somehow. That's why we have the power pin on.
One more question. What happens if we don't have resistor? Like, we connect the pin to the LED straight around without resistor.
What usually happens is fire.
It burns out.
Yeah, there's so much burning, right? So it will burn because it's what's called current. So current is and there's too much current going through it, and it will actually burn. Sometimes. Again, depends what you're powering. In the case of LED, it will burn out after maybe 20 seconds. So it's not immediate, but it will burn out. So we've got to resist some of that current so it doesn't burn out.
It's like, think of it like a floodgate almost. The resistor is the resistor kind of sits in the middle and restricts how much water goes through. But if you do have that like dam wall stopping it all, then you just have a massive floodplain going through.
So right in the bottom, I can see that you one type resistor on.
Yes. Yes. And you would change the type of resistor based on what power requirements each component needs. In the case of the servo, what's magical is I can feed 5 volts and I can feed the signal without any.
So
because all the power is handled by 2 of the 3 pins.
So is there any manual I can read, like which one? Do you have like?
Generally speaking, the best guide is Google. Best guide is Google.
Holy shit.
Honestly, like, I wish there was some Google guide, but the way I learned it and the way most people learn it is literally go on Google, watch some tutorials, look up this component and go, how does this work?
Just JCOM. It's just a loyalty
There are
card.
so many I really can't say.
But
If you want
it's
to
such
see
an
the
interesting loyalty card. I love it.
Yeah,
literally Google.
It's like,
there's
so it just has such like,
so
it just has useful things on it.
a little bit, not too much.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, I don't know if I like JCOM right now, to be honest. I'm kind of a bit of the edge, but at the same time, it's a really useful card to have.
Yeah.
It has like a pin-out.
Yeah, it's breakout board, yes.
Yeah. So the hat goes on top of the
Big puzzle.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it plugs onto the top of it.
You mean the casing or the 40 pin?
I think a hat. It's like a board. You put it on top of it. So the sensors, you know, you put on top of the pins. But now when you have a hat, which is then going to take away all that, can you still have sensors hooked onto the pins?
It should. It's just a connector, right? Like, from the hat, can you still plug things into it?
I'm not sure. I don't think on the top of the hat. There are pins again on the top of the hat. That's the thing. But I've seen there's like the pin extensions in there. But I haven't spent much time Googling. Yeah. So some people are like, yeah, it can. Other people are like, oh.
I'm not sure what you mean by hat though. I'm not actually 100% sure.
Like a shield?
No, it's like
If there's a shield on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just Google LoRaWAN Raspberry Pi. LoRaWAN
Hat WAN, like this.
LoRa.
R-A. WAN.
Together.
All together.
Hat.
Right.
Yeah, so you can see like.
Right, yes, yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Images. This one?
Yeah, so you see it's on top of the
Yeah, so it's
right. I've never worked with this, but
it plugs into the pins.
Yeah, so you can use
that's why I was
so
like,
you can get a wireless area network.
So can you still use the pins for other sensors, or will it now? Because I know like, the thing about the hat is that if you plug it on, it has those 2 extra pins, at least on like the newest Raspberry Pi, so it self-configures and you don't have to deal with any of the drivers, it's selecting pins and stuff. So from what I've seen, some people were saying like if the hat doesn't use the pins you need for whatever else, it should be fine. Because I don't know what pins are used, what pins are not used. I was like, can you still just hook up the sensors anyway? Or
see, I haven't worked with system mode because I haven't worked very much on Raspberry Pis. So, very difficult for me to tell you, but it's still cool research.
Alternatively, like we can just maybe get like a USB LoRaWAN or something that connects to the internet because we have those ports.
Yeah,
then we don't have to worry about it.
What are you using it for? Because you don't need.
We build it on the station.
Okay, yeah, so you don't need the WAN, it would just be useful then. But you could still connect to the Ethernet kind of thing?
Yeah.
Technically.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the thing is, it's kind of like a complete concept, but the whole thing is supposed to use potential on top of the building, and then also like there's also drones involved with also sensors on.
Okay, so yeah.
So you could operate wirelessly down.
Yeah, never mind then. Yeah, I was just thinking it was like it plugs into a PowerPoint because then you could have a PowerPoint extension for a wireless network.
Yeah, or you can do power and everything else.
Yeah, that one. That's what I was trying to say. Yes.
Yeah.
So it looks like, at least from what I can see here on this one, you can only connect you can only connect certain things from that side, I think. But for the most part, it's actually not possible based on what you have there.
Yeah.
So that top row there makes it look like it's not possible. But because you have a wireless, means that you can have a separate Arduino that handles all the sensor data for you and transmits it to your Wi-Fi. Anyway, but yeah, so you can, at least from my design work across Python, but by the looks of it looks like you can't plug anything into it. So I don't think it's a good idea to solder it, because that means you can be tweaking with the original signals. So what I would recommend is, if you just decide to go with that pass, go look up a SSH, I think it is, or some sort of serial connection to a separate Arduino board with a wireless ESP 01 or 014, basically a Wi-Fi module to the Arduino. No, that's not real. And so what you'd be doing is you'd be chucking all your sensors on your Arduino, and so that's a separate module that doesn't even have to be linked to that. And then all the sensor reading will happen off that. It will send the data to the Raspberry Pi, which it will receive, and then from there it will compute. At least from what I see here, that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be easier to just USB, this kind of USB or
Otherwise, there are some USB Wi-Fi. It doesn't work.
Yeah. No, because it's like, because it's supposed to be an outdoor application.
Yeah.
We were like, Wi-Fi would not necessarily cover the range.
Yeah.
And
there's radio transmitters.
3 kilometers.
Yeah.
3 kilometer range. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just supposed to be a proof of concept, but basically it's for collecting weather data. So it's a combination of like on the ground, like on a building weather station, and then also like sensors on a drone. So the point is then to collect this like data in real time from multiple weather stations. So I think LoRa is a simple solution because you have up to a 10 kilometer radius. And then like if that's what we're using, there's multiple stations in the car.
Okay. Not to go into a shameless plug, but I'm not saying you're buy from us. Shameless plug. Okay, so there are these things called long-range RF or radio frequency receivers. These can actually go quite far.
Up to 1 kilometer.
Right? Not to say to get this one if your range is 1 kilometer. Get something better. But do a quick Google search. And you see that there are radio transmitters.
This is for Arduino.
Arduino Raspberry Pi, same thing. This one, I don't think this one's good.
So it's not reliable.
This one I would say is not as reliable as you would like. So I would recommend if you want something with but that's something to look up.
So which one's more reliable?
I generally found the short-range version worked well, which is like this one. It's a short-range RF, works decently okay, but again, that's short-range. But again, the best thing to note with this is because a lot of these components are quite common, you can do a quick Google search, you can Raspberry Pi, long-range RF, and you might type in model number, and there's a huge community backing it that just says, here's my code, here's how I fix this problem. And you'll see that, and it's quite easy to program that way. But that would be my suggestion to solve the problem.
About the call next week, do we form groups or not?
It can be individual, can be groups. But you'll see that the call is actually quite simple. It's like L298 and modules, 2 motors.
I mean, it's all radio.
Wait, is that
I'll make a wooden platform with a bicycle wheels. No, yellow motors. They've already been through kits with the yellow motors and yellow wheels.
Arduino was the one that had a wooden platform. Something that's not in Arduino, I know what that was, and wooden wheels.
That's not the one with I'll work on the yellow wheels. I can show you the one if you give me my one. It's pretty much like lace up board and then like that's the wheel, and then 2 yellow motors and 2 yellow wheels. Pretty standard, pretty simple.
So much research. We might have to extend the time, especially for Linux.
Okay. Does that answer your questions? Do you have any more? We should go for now. Research. Do a little research. Come back next week.
You can email the shop again and ask.
Do you have email or
we have a Facebook page with a website, a convenient contact page. So with any sales inquiries, that one there, any general ones from there, that's the best way that I can contact us. Cool?
Thank you.
Yeah, so any inquiries about sales, check with the sales email.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
No worries, thank you so much guys for coming. Have a good night.
gentle, be gentle. WWE.
I came in like, guys, don't put the names. We got it.
Build a program out of it to test the see what the whole thing.
Alright,
From there.
Cable's outside. Cable's outside. We don't know where both of them go.
Michael, that's how it's done.